Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks and my code HMA. Both Brendan and I are sponsored by Prize Picks, which is America's #1 sports app. The app is really easy to use. Just pick more or less, lock in your lineup, go out there and make yourself some money. Prize Picks is available in many of the states in the United States, including Texas and California. Though in Washington, you will still have to use it on a casino's network if you want to use the app in full. They've got a new user offer where if you put down $5 on a lineup, they will get you $50 in lineup when you either use my code, HMA, or simply just click the link down in the description section below. Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details, and always remember to gamble responsibly. Hello and welcome to another edition of the B&B Show. My name is, of course, Brandon Kane, and my cohort over there on the left side is Seahawks. Brandon Nelson back in the house as we whittle our way through these draft prospects that we think are very much potentially in play for the Seattle Seahawks. Bit by bit, trying to target these exact positions, throwing out certain ones that we know that you guys aren't going to be as interested in because we know there's not a likelihood Seattle's really going to look to them. And so, Brendan, it's great to have you back in the house today as we look at another one of these positional groups. How you feeling as you're going through your draft coverage, sir? Are you making it through good?
I mean, I'm making it through, man. I mean, you do it every year because it's what you do. There's nothing else to talk about right now, but I mean, I feel the energy, man. I want to say to anybody out there who feels a little bit checked out on this draft class, I feel your pain. I understand, but there are still going to be good players in this draft, guys, and we got to find them. Like, if we don't, then we're going to do the same things we did back in the early and mid 2000s, where we let, or 2010s, where we let a potential dynasty get away from us. So, got to find the right ones.
Got to indeed. And certainly right now you got the word that DeMarcus Lawrence is coming back, which is good. Team has indicated that Uchenna Nwosu is going to remain under his contract, at least for the moment. We'll see, if that's an ebbing and flowing situation, though I would think they would do right by him if the intention was to cut him versus maybe a restructure a little bit later on. But with Mafe gone, you are going to need to have a replacement in house now. And we're going to go through kind of some like we've done in the other positions, really trying to stay to more of the top 4-ish rounds of the draft and those particular kind of the spots here to not look at the back end as much. We want to kind of unpack one thing right off the rip with Brendan, because I want to understand his perspective on this. Is I'm having a lot of discussions with other Hawk content creators and getting their feel for this. And it's what I'm trying to kind of figure my way through a little bit. And that is that when we're looking at the edge group, historically under like a Coach Carroll style of defense, you would have looked for a variety of different edge styles. You had the Leo edge, who would have been a little bit maybe undersized because he's going to line out wide and just really try to snatch that edge. You'd have more of the strong side guy be the power edge, a la like a Red Bryant or Brendan or a Michael Bennett on early downs over there as a defensive end to that side. And so there was a little bit more of, I think, a freedom to the type of edges you were looking for. But as I've looked at Mike McDonald's defense, he is very much, from my perspective, pretty hard lined into the power edge and pretty universally so. I do want to get your perspective on this, though, because it's one that is in a bit of contention, I think, they're out there amongst us content creators.
Yeah, Carroll did not discriminate, right? Carroll did not discriminate with his edge rushers, but this feels a little bit different. I guess I would say I don't know if McDonald is completely uninterested in utilizing a different type of edge rusher, but I mean, he's been here 2 years, and let's think about it. Let's think about the way he's ended up deploying what he has. Like, that first year when Derrick Hall was basically just a pure speed rusher and he was awful against the run, by the end of the year, he was barely playing. Like, he was barely getting snaps because he was purely one-dimensional. And then last year, despite the fact that he was a much older player, and despite the fact that that's a player that you would logically want to pace throughout the course of the season, he ended up really riding DeMarcus Lawrence aggressively. And he ended up basically shelving a guy like Boye Mafe because that's what he wants out there. So, yeah, I would say that in a perfect world, he wants power edges. I agree with that. And assuming he's going to be here for quite some time, and that seems to be the case here for multiple reasons, I think it's very fair to conclude that if he gets enough time to do it, he's going to want to build a room built almost entirely out of those power edges. So there are guys that we can kind of dismiss out of hand here as we go through this process.
I think so as well. And it will be interesting to see this put to the test because there is really likely a chance that the Seahawks are going to take an edge in this draft and probably in the first, I would estimate, 3 days. But this will be interesting to see as this goes further, Brendan, if it does continue in this way or if there is something in Mike where there is more of that openness to taking on different types in that way. We'll see when it comes to that. When it comes to this draft, Brendan, we've got an edge group that's pretty strong, especially through these first 4 rounds we're talking about. There are edge fits to Seattle. But as always, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the top guys to a degree here. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the first 2 guys I want to just, kind of quickly banter into and get into, because I really have one guy I want to lock into. Of course, you didn't have on the list here, but Avril Reese and then David Bailey, 2 guys that are absolutely not going to be on Seattle's radar as far as possibility. They're going to be picked probably within the first 5 picks, I would estimate. I don't think that we're trading up that high. John never trades up, but I certainly don't think if John's trading up that he's trading all the way up from 32 up to 2 or 3 there, where the price is going to be just insane to go up and get that to that spot. With that said, I'd like a little bit of your perspective. I'll give mine too, just off of it, of where you stood with. We'll start with first David Bailey and then maybe a little bit of Reese if you've had a chance to look at him.
Yeah, David Bailey, I feel like he's emblematic of this draft class, right? Yes, he's one of the best players in this draft class, but kind of feels like that tells you something about this class, right? Like you compare him to a guy like Abdul Carter, or even where we were with a guy like Chase Young as a prospect. I know that we have a different perception on Chase Young now, but at the time. And David Bailey is kind of this draft's Chase Young, this draft's Abdul Carter. It's not the same. Like, David Bailey has holes in his game. He's undersized. He doesn't have a lot of power. I don't think he's a very good run defender. I do think that as of right now, he is a somewhat one-dimensional pass rusher, mostly dependent on speed and athletic prowess. And he's already 23, by the way. There's no guarantee that he gets better, right? Like, this could just be what he is. He doesn't play with leverage all that well. He gets stuck on blockers a little bit. Now, I'm not here to completely dismiss everything he is. He's a great athlete. The first step quickness, he has a bag of pass rush moves that are legitimate. The college production is there. And a lot of these guys we're going to talk about today did not have big college production. So his production stands out. He's got the bend. He's got the speed. Change of direction stuff is there. So there is good stuff with David Bailey, but I find him very wanting compared to somebody like I said, Abdul Carter.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's snatch the edge kind of guy. So I don't think he would be even a guy that Seattle would really look at as a necessarily fit to them either, as far as if there's other players that were in that range as far as talent goes. He is a guy that I think does give you a bit of the high floor, low ceiling stuff I think that exists in this draft pretty concurrently, where it's a guy that can come in and give you the edge rotation and probably give you pretty quickly to that 8 to 10 sack role. But then that's probably also going to be maybe about where he tops out too, where there's not maybe any extra advancement. You spoke to the age, but you're not going to get the guy going further beyond that. And I think he is going to kind of find his ceiling on that pretty fast. But I do think he'll get to that pretty fast because there's just stuff he does within his pass rush and that bag you mentioned that are going to work and transition to the next level. I just don't think it'll make him dominant at the next level. And when you're picking the guy potentially as the number 2 overall selection of the draft, I think you're looking more dominance and all pro level potential. Oh, you're muted.
My bad. Yeah, I mean, I like him. No disrespect. Although I will say, for whatever it's worth, that 10-yard split wasn't even sub 1.6. And usually that's kind of the magic number for a guy that's really blue chip. I think even Will Anderson had a sub 1.6. And he's more of a power edge than David Bailey by, I think, a pretty decent amount.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it's not the way he's going to try to win is with that stuff. You mentioned the leverage, which I think is also fair, and that goes in hand in hand. You're not powerful, and then you're not naturally a leverage winner, snap in and snap out. It's going to be hard to be that edge setter. It's going to be hard to be that. That's where I come back to, might have to end up finding into his more of a role of just being, leaned into more of the pass rush stuff. He wasn't bad against the run necessarily. I will say that. And great against the run, highest graded player by PFF last year and all edges in the college football. But you do, I think you have just some concerns there with that not being a part of his game and having to go that other route. But yeah, I think there is just a little bit of limitation to the ceiling, which is just not what you want to be talking about when you're taking this guy number 2. And I'm still kind of off, Brendan. I don't know. We're going to talk about Ruben Bane in a second, but I still don't understand that you wouldn't be going more for the potential of Bane or Alvaro Reese here if you are the Jets. David Bailey feels a little bit like the guy to me that didn't they just like move a guy that was kind of like this kind of guy. What was his name? I forget. There was a trade that they just made this offseason for one of those edges that they had selected in the second round.
Was it the guy from
Johnson? Jermaine Johnson, I think.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson. Yeah,
it's kind of like similar to what you just kind of got rid of a little bit.
Yeah, so I'd put him in the top 10 of this draft. I don't know if I'd go top 5, honestly. I don't know. And again, it's not a very good draft. So in a normal draft, I feel like he should kind of be more like a middle first round guy, but we got to take the draft as it is. So just one of those things. He's a first round pick all day, but especially in this defense, I don't see it. Not that matters because he's not on the table.
Yeah. Well, and then Arvell Reese is another guy we didn't have listed here because he was done a lot of off-ball linebacker stuff.
Yeah, I have not looked at Reese that much, I will admit, because I am evaluating him as a linebacker.
And he's a guy that I think is going to be able to do some edge stuff. I think people are trying to hype him into the Micah Parsons level of things, and I'm not sure that he's that type of player. I think everybody's trying to get kind of force fit into that success story. As we saw, you mentioned Abdul Carter was put into that same kind of lane last year of this is that track for this kind of player type with this kind of length who played off-ball linebacker in college. Yeah, it's not everybody's going to be Micah. Not everybody's going to be great at making that transition in that fashion, and he might just be a off-ball linebacker when it's all said and done, doing the majority of his stuff as an off-ball linebacker.
Yeah.
But we'll see with Reese. I don't think that, again, he's going to be on the board. I still think the Jets come down to, we're talking Bailey in this or Bane. I just don't think these guys with Reese, because of that Micah Parsons thing that can just, you know what it does, dude. If there's that success story, it can drive that prospect that year who even gets a little bit of heat as having some comparisons to that player, right?
Yeah. You don't think the Jets just talk themselves into Ty Simpson here? You don't think they're going to do that? That feels like a Jets
I think the Jets were initially going to try to take Ty at 16. And then I think all of this hype of Ty now that starts like this, what happens with quarterbacks as we get closer and closer to the draft is that like you get further away from the games and now everything starts turning into this like NFL hype machine because they want to talk themselves into taking a quarterback early. They want to be drafting a quarterback. And you can see that with the Jets that they're like, well, wait, we can't wait to 16. And so like, well, maybe we can't jump up from 16 to this. You know, you do that the whole math where you're like, well, why don't we just take him here then if we've got the conviction as it stands? And it'd be silly on their part, but I can see that completely playing out in that fashion.
I'm ready for it, man. I am ready for it.
I am too. Let's get 4 quarterbacks taken in the first. That'd be great if we can somehow figure, you know what I mean? Like just some teams talking themselves into it. Come on. The guy I want to talk about though, that the guy that I think that there's a chance he does drift a little bit. And I know that this is definitely that, as I like to say, the pie in the sky thing. This is the like wishing on a shooting star thing a little bit here, or maybe this something you don't want to consider or do. But we got Ruben Bane as a guy who might drift as much as anything for specifically just the short arms, which do not show up on tape as being an issue in college, as he was out there being dominant.
Right.
I also think something happened this year at the combine where the arm length got shortened on everybody across the board by how they were measuring. So I'm not going to be as dissuaded. This guy falls to 10, Brendan, and I've got a draft where maybe the cost to move up. Remember the Lions a couple years ago for moving back to 12, like somebody had to move up to 12. The cost wasn't as great to pull that off. Maybe you can pull this off with just simply purely 2 first-round picks and a kicker type situation or something.
Yeah.
Are you open to taking that kind of approach, or is that a no-go all the way for you?
I struggle with it. I don't want to give up a first-round pick in next year's draft unless I feel completely secure about what I'm getting, because that first-round pick next year, even if it's low, is going to be fairly appealing to hold on to. And as much as I do like Ruben Bane, I think he's the best edge in this class. I think he's a top 5 player in this class, maybe even top 3, maybe even top 2. I don't know. I haven't put together my exact big board yet. But for me, there are a couple of limitations here. I do think the short arm thing is a fair concern, even if it's probably not as bad as it looks. And even though we've seen players overcome that, right? Like Aaron Donald did not have very long arms, if I recall correctly, right?
Mm-hmm. Little 32-ish.
I think
so.
Khalid Jakansi has short arms too, and he's a pretty good player. So it's not impossible. But I'm not really into the idea of trading up for him. And I also kind of feel like it's going to cost more than that, because the Seahawks have the reputation of being such a good team right now that teams are going to want more if they want our picks, because our picks are perceived to be of lower value.
That's fair enough. What about Brian's got interesting? What about all 4 picks for Bane?
Well, that would be, I mean, that would be a dream, right? Like, I don't care about those picks. Who cares about those picks at this point?
Interesting. A little bit of the reverse. What would you call it? That'd be the reverse. Who was the guy that got traded? The Saints guy that got traded for all the picks?
Oh, Ricky Williams.
Right. Ricky Williams. So kind of a reverse Ricky Williams. So you don't have all 7. You're only giving him 4. So it's kind of an interesting proposition.
Yeah, I mean that would be money. That would be trivial. But yeah, Ruben Bane's great. No hate. Loves to utilize his strength. He goes right through guys. High effort. I think he's going to be able to do the Michael Bennett stuff where he slides inside on some downs. Good handwork. He anchors really well. Like there's a lot to like here. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think I'm trading the farm for him as much as I do like him and appreciate him. I think he should be edge one. I think he's clearly better than David Bailey.
I agree with you on this wholeheartedly. I do think I'd probably be a little bit more open to you. Not that I'm sitting here banging the table that they must do it, but I'm just thinking if John does find a proposition where it's all about, look, if the market opportunity is right and it happens to be that year where a team sitting at 10 says, this draft isn't great. We don't like the guy that we're sitting here that we have picking. We'd rather just pick up extra picks, and we're not going to hold people over the barrel to make that trade happen. Then maybe you go out here and look to do it because this is a guy that is a pure schematic fit. He is a power edge first and foremost, and he crushes tackles off the edge. But then he also provides this weird, unique thing, which is he also has dip and bend. So you can't just sit there and load up for his power as a tackle. You have to also be ready for him to go and try to snatch that edge occasionally, and he does so very well. He is a guy that, to me, you saw a lot of dedication of resources his way, despite the fact Mesador was also on that defensive line on the other side there, who was a really great pass rusher that we'll be talking about in a second as well. I think he's got, maybe not as many counters into his game, but just as far as just being just a pure fit to this defense, I think there's some flashes of his game that are Reggie White. Not that I put that as a full-on comp, but I think I can see a lot of Reggie in his game, including the hump move that Reggie used to bring into play. And for me, Ruben Bane is a guy that is very interesting to me in this draft. For a draft that doesn't have a lot of guys that entice me as much, that don't have me as much over the moon on. Here's one, Brendan, that's actually got me really excited for where I think his game's going to go.
I'm not going to be mad if we trade up for him. I'm just going to be like, oh boy, we better win the Super Bowl again this year,
Hey, amen, man. Amen. Well, we quickly get into probably, I would say, into sort of the end of the first round from the top of the first round with these first three guys we talk about as we get now to Keldric Faulk. This is one of those big, monstrous type edges out there. In fact, I think this is probably the biggest edge in this draft. He's, and you put 21 years of old. Of course, he's just right now still 20 and a half, I think. So he's going to be turning 21 right at the start of the season. My man, 6'6", 276 with over 34-inch long arms. So he checks all the boxes as far as wingspan, length, size you'd like to have in this system. I'm very interested to hear what you think about this guy and looking at his tape. I found myself almost writing about a page of notes on him as I was going through because I had a hard time with my evaluation.
Yeah. I think he's got basically the same measurements as Shelby Harris did in terms of like height and weight and arm length. It's close, man. It's Shelby Harris-like, and Shelby Harris wasn't an edge, so it's something to keep in mind here. So the size and length really stands out here, obviously. He's versatile. Auburn lined him up all up and down that line. They lined him up everywhere. I'm not saying we're going to be able to if we get him, but the Auburn did. He's got some legitimate pass rush moves. It's not just pure speed or pure power. Great run stopper, and that should be the thing that gets our attention a little bit here because we know that's what Mike seems to covet here. A lot of violence and power in his game. He's got a good stack and shed game as well. He can stack up blockers and then shed them. I don't know if he's really a stand-up edge, and I know we don't care about that as much as we normally would because of McDonald's defense, but even the bigger guys we have, guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, I think they're still more athletic than a guy like Keldric Faulk. I think Keldric Faulk is maybe a little bit too much leaning in the direction of the oversized edge, even for McDonald's defense. The height is a problem, and this is something I talk about all the time when we're talking about guys in the trenches. You lose leverage too much when you're this tall. So they get under your pads, and that's a big problem. The hand usage isn't all the way there yet. There is some stuff here that is a work in progress. He didn't have a great productive season in 2025. Like, I think 2025 was the year a lot of people expected him to ascend, but he didn't. He had 2 sacks. He had 30 pressures. It was okay. So ultimately, this is just one of those times where I think he's a fantastic prospect. I'd put him in the top 15. I'd love to get him, but you got to leave it up to Mike McDonald on whether or not he's a fit for the defense. And even though I could talk myself into him being a fit, I'm not completely convinced that he is.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of some of the similar struggles I had with him, which is that you do like him a lot. It's just you have some other things that leave you wondering a little bit. I also was just another one of those guys that gets moved inside and outside the college level, and instead of coming out and you going, well, he's going to be an early down edge and I can kick him inside late downs, you go, well, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if he's going to work as a 3-tech because he didn't really do necessarily enough of it consistently there. There's some reps in there where he will completely forklift a guy and send him in the backfield from the 3-tech position. But then there's other reps where, as I call it with his game, sometimes there's the power to nowhere. Sometimes you feel the power in full and it's wow. And you're like, this kid's got it. And then other times it's just like, you just have kind of nothing, nowhere reps. I think as a run defender, he gives you a lot of good floor there with where you don't know with him as a pass rusher. But of course, if you don't know what you're getting as a pass rusher, but a good run defender, it gets hard. We're doing a lot of extrapolation. Same point in time, 20 and a half years old. I think there's a lot of reason to believe that you can expect growth and development and that you can be in a position, if he does slide you at the top of the first round, of saying, hey, we can wait for this guy for a couple of years to get to the monster he is going to truly become when he can put it all together. And this is the kind of player I could understand you looking at. Was I kind of fully came around. It took about 2 or 3 sessions for me with the film on him to fully come back around and go, well, I can see if the flashes are there at 20 and a half playing in the SEC, I probably should trust in that if I'm picking at the end of the first round, as I tried to get to kind of a simplified place of things.
Very hard for me to believe he'll be there, though. I think he'll be long gone because he is really good. And even if we feel like he doesn't fit, somebody will.
Yeah, I agree. I do think he's probably going to be taken in this draft. Somebody will be doing the same sort of math on this one with some of the other questionable prospects out there, including this next one that I think you've got a little bit higher up on your graded board than I necessarily do, though we're both in the second round, I think, on him. That is Ruben Bane's running mate out there at Miami. Akeem Mesador. He is a 25-year-old prospect, so played like 6 years in college or something like that. Got 32-inch arms, not bad. 259 on the pounds, not bad. Where are we out on Akeem Mesador?
You know, I'm a fan, maybe more than I should be, but I look at that age thing and normally, it would give me pause. And I'm not saying that it isn't a problem, but I think there's another side to it too, which is we're getting him very close to his peak from the very start. And for a team that kind of needs edge help right now, I think that's valuable. Like, we need somebody that can play this year, right? As the roster is put together at this moment, especially because we need to keep in mind here that DeMarcus Lawrence might fall off. He is 34 years old now, and he has massive miles on him. What are we going to get out of him? I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowler again. Uchenna Nwosu had like a burst for about maybe a month and a half at the start of the season of being a really good player, and then after that, he was just kind of okay. That might have been kind of the last stand of his career early in the season. We might really need guys that can play now, and I look at Akeem Mesador, and because of the age in part, I think this guy might be able to play now. Monster production this last year, 67 pressures in college, 12 and a half sacks. He's really flexible. He can fit in almost anywhere on a defense. He's powerful, great run defense. He can chase plays down from the weak side as well. He's a really good weak side defender. A lot of legitimate pass rush moves. He's high effort, high motor. And he's also smart in how he attacks blockers. He really seems to think about things, I think. Now, he's not really a speed rusher. He doesn't have that speed upside. The short arms are a problem. 32 and an eighth. That's not good. Sometimes he amps up too much to make up. Sometimes it feels like he overruns the play a little bit. So I ended up feeling like he is a first round pick, and I'd love to get him at 32.
Yeah, he's definitely a bigger edge. I didn't think I felt like the power was as much in play as I think what you saw in the tape from him. I do think he's also a little bit more of the one gapper rather than the two gapper type, where he's trying to get upfield. You talked about overrunning the play, and I think that's a lot of that, where he's not holding the line like you have with Ruben Bane at times and just setting that hard edge. He's instead trying to get back there and knife into the backfield, which is, of course, not what you're really going to be doing here if you're in that place of things. I also think he's a hand in the dirt guy rather than a stand-up guy. I see more of kind of a Michael Bennett-ish type dude coming off, where it's like, yeah, you got big size, but you're more off kind of work the finesse off the big size, even when you're working off the edge at times. And so I just still kind of come back to him on that going, I don't know if all of that quite fits up for me. I do think he's a pretty complete player, like you said, where the run defense is strong and he's instinctive and he can both work off blocks, attacking, and then be smart and instinctive about finding the run game as well. So there's some parts of his game I really like. I love how he reads and reacts. But as well, I thought he got a lot of one-on-one opportunities because of the attention that was being put over to Ruben Bane over to the other side. And again, just felt like there's an explosiveness when he's launching out of his snap with the hand in the dirt that gets a little bit lost to me with the bigger guy when he's standing up.
Yeah, that's fair. And again, it's just one of those things where because we know McDonald has a type, sometimes you do have to look at players like this and say, it's going to be up to McDonald. Does he think he can make that work? And if the answer is yes, then we go with it. And if not, we don't. And sometimes it's hard to know exactly, but your suspicions are well-founded.
Yeah. And we'll see on him. I definitely will see. There are some parts of his game that do check boxes as far as what they're looking for. So, and being 25, as you said, maybe you can look at him as you're getting that immediate injection of help rather than we typically can kind of see from some of these guys as we pick them in the sort of the second roundish range here. We have to wait a year on him a bit. Next guy up on the board here, and this guy's drifted down for me a little bit recently. I don't still have him in the second round, but I've got him pretty far down in the second round. And that's going to be Cashius Howell out of Texas A&M. Guy's 6'3", 253. Not the tallest, not the greatest as far as his weight. And then the arms were the real death knell for him. He's at the 0. I like you put 0%.
I mean, it is literally, you go to mockdraftable.com.
I know, but it's just hilarious. Yeah. Negative 2.5, 30 and a quarter inch arms for our man Cashius Howell. Not the biggest hands either for my guy. He's not gifted the big levers and not gifted the biggest hands, but does run a nice 40, shows up on tape, has a okay 10-yard split. This guy though, I went back, watched another tape session of him about 2 nights ago, and I went, there's some things here that are good, but there's some things here that I think just disinclude him from Seattle completely, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument that arm length is almost disqualifying for the NFL period. I think there's an argument to be made here that he's just not an NFL player. Like, I don't want to go too far with it here, but that is brutal. That's brutal. That's like a quarterback that can't throw the ball more than 15 yards.
It shows up on his tape, unlike Bane too. There's your measured arms, and it's like, well, I don't see the problem on tape. Like you can't run me a collection of snaps with Bane and be like, here, see, there's the arm length problem right there. There it is. There it is again. I can turn on Cashius Howell and go for a quarter, and I can show you a collection of snaps, especially in the run game where Brendan, I think you're seeing the same thing where he's getting hung up, and it's just because he can't get his little hands and his little baby arms. He can't quite get them onto the player across from him. And so he just gets kind of neutralized, gives you a lot of effort, fights his ass off. Even his best move, though, Brendan, he's got a ghost move. I mean, it's that I call it Casper because he runs that thing out 24/7. But all that's built on what? Not allowing the tackle's hands upon him, right? With the ghost move, because that's the whole point of the ghost move is you're trying to dip under the contact of the tackle because he's trying to make sure you get your hands on me, I'm toast, so I got to keep your hands off of me. And it all kind of backtracks for there as we look at this game. You don't want to simplify a guy's game down to kind of one hardy thing, but I think you mentioned it, and there's some truth to it.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's got the bend. He's got the first step quickness. Don't get me wrong. He's got some moves that can win at the next level, I think. He's got the speed. He's a good chase down player. He chases down plays from the backside, high effort. There is a little bit of power there when he can actually utilize it, which is unfortunately not that often. But I'm not a fan of, it's one of those things where he has good moves, but I'm not a fan of the way he strings them together, if that makes sense. It's like he has moves, but he doesn't necessarily have a coherent pass rush plan from snap to snap. Not really a great run defender, and he's going to get pushed back by drive blocks. He's just not really going to be able to hold up there. So there's a lot to like, but it's in this package that feels like it's not good enough. I'd put him in the second round if you want a pure rush edge, somebody that can just come off the bench on third down and speed rush to the quarterback. I mean, there's something here. You could probably take him in the mid-second and feel okay about it, but not on this team. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, just can't see it with it, and still a good player. There's some good stuff to his game, but just it's hard to kind of put it under it with that on that. And I going to be interesting to see which team is the fit. He is a pure 3-4 guy, but not sure where exactly he's gonna land at. Next guy up probably is a fit into the Seattle system here, and a guy definitely potentially in play for them at 32. That's going to be TJ Parker of Clemson, 21-year-old kid, 263 pounds, over 33-inch long arms, so hits all the measurable checks you'd like to see from the system on that. Didn't have the best 40 time, didn't have the best 10-yard split. He is a power guy through and through, and how he wants to run it. Didn't have the best year this year versus prior year, where he looked like a guy that is going to vault into sort of top 10 status in the draft, and this year kind of took a step backwards. Complicated evaluation is TJ Parker.
Yeah, a lot of that going around on Clemson this last year. Like Cade Klubnik was going to
be a lot of going that on Clemson, period.
Yeah. Yeah, Antonio Williams was supposed to be a first-round receiver. Now I don't even know if he gets drafted anymore. Like, I don't know what happened there. Something in the water.
The great college of the underperforming. That's what I'm going to start calling
Yeah.
Clemson.
Yeah, them in Penn State.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of power, and he's ferocious with it, which I appreciate. He's got some nice pass rush moves already. This is not just a pure power guy. He's an excellent run defender. He sheds through blockers well. He's got great hands. His handwork is really good. Good athlete. And even though he's a bigger and not super athletic guy, he's handled those zone drops in his college career fairly well. So you kind of know he can do at least some of the standing up stuff already. Now, he might not be a completely clean fit for a stand-up role. His production did dip hard in 2025, which is frustrating. And I don't know how much space he's really going to cover. I don't know if he's going to be a sideline to sideline guy. And he's got to continue to advance his pass rush skills because the limited speed is kind of is going to be a limiting factor here. So I think this is a good fit. I think this might be somebody that you look at and go, this could be the heir apparent to DeMarcus Lawrence. So I ended up placing him in the middle of the first, and I would love to get him at 32.
Yeah, I think he's definitely kind of meat and potatoes pick there for 32 on it, where it just did make sense. You can't really argue with the reasoning behind going that approach with it. He is a guy that's a power edge, works off not just working off power with a bull rush. He can also do a good job of attacking the tackle's hands, trying to do that wrist lift move at times, that some of those guys are good at if they can attack the undersides of the wrists at just the right time. I thought he's a really capable run defender. Your points about the spot dropping are also, I think, well spotted, which you're going to be asked to do in the system at times and getting out into space off the edge when they want to run some of their creative stuff. He's got a couple of secondary moves. He's got some counters. None of this is like a huge strength to his game. I think he's a little bit to a lesser degree from Bane, where he does give you just a little bit of some bend around the edge on top. It's like, it's not a lot, but it's just a little bit to keep them kind of honest to get up against his power to a degree. And again, the last year wasn't great as far as the tape goes, but you just can't deny the fit, and you can't deny that there's been good college production there throughout his time. And if you're getting in there at that spot for how he fits into the system so well, I think he's a kind of a plug and play dude where you're going to be able to at least put a good 15 snaps a game in his direction. And at very least in the run game, he should hold up very well when asked to do that.
Yeah. I just ended up finding myself being kind of a fan here. I mean, you do have to hope that 2025 was kind of a fluke, but I'm okay. In this draft, I'm down with that.
Yeah. And I think I came down to this another one of the guys where you go, well, the floor is really solid, but I don't know where the ceiling's at really. But that's again, that's kind of the story of a lot of the guys in this draft. So,
yeah.
You can't get hung up on that stuff where you can't pick a proverbial thing that doesn't exist in this draft. So understandable if they went with TJ Parker. Another guy that's come up for me, though, there is some weird potential legal issues. He's had moments on the field that have been a little bit weird. But he is a guy whose tape, to me, does remind me a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah.
In the way that he goes about his business. I mean, he's not DeMarcus as a comp for me, Brendan, but Zion Young, I think, has a lot of come back to flashes or come back to there's elements of his game that are there that are overlapping. I liked his tape. Got some worries, though, on the character front, don't we?
Yeah. And for whatever it's worth, the Seahawks have met with him. So that indicates they're intrigued, but they probably have questions, right? Probably it's maybe similar to the Jalen Carter stuff, because based on what we know about the Jalen Carter stuff, we used a top 30 visit on him. I believe we met with Jalen Carter. I know that. And based on what happened, it was kind of clear that we didn't like what we saw with Jalen Carter. And there were indications afterwards that he wasn't even on our board by draft day. So the fact that we met with Zion Young probably indicates that we are trying to work our way through that. And look, I mean, in terms of on the field stuff, I'm a fan. He is really tall, and that is going to be an issue. But I look at him and I do see a DeMarcus Lawrence type. Big time size. He's powerful. He's a great tackler. He's got some legitimate pass rush moves already. His leadership also stands out. He's intense, I think, and sometimes that shows up in some uglier ways, but he does have that intensity. He works through blockers well. He's a really good edge setter. I do look at him and I see a Mike McDonald edge. Now, he's not the greatest pass rusher. He had 6.5 sacks last year, and that was by a pretty decent amount, his career high. The lack of length is a little bit of an issue, and he's got to develop more counter moves.
He's 33.
33-inch arms.
Yeah.
Right?
Is that small? That's decent
it's
size
30
for me.
it's 31st percentile. It's okay. It's not, let's not get too excited here. It's okay. It works. It gets the job done, but it's not spectacular. And I think, how long are D-Law's arms? I think they're a lot longer than that. Maybe I'm wrong.
They probably got a little bit more than that. I would say. I'd have to look it up, but I think you're right.
Yeah. So I'd take him at 32 and feel okay about it. I like him as long as they feel like the background stuff checks out. I know they want to stay away from those guys if they feel like there's a real problem there, but I like Zion Young.
He was 33 and 3/4 inches was DeMarcus Lawrence.
A little bit.
So a little bit longer.
No big deal.
Yeah, I would take him as well at that spot if that's. I think that the value is right. I don't know about the off character stuff. We talked about Jalen Carter back once, and we said, look, we don't have the reports that John does, so I just fall back to his expertise on this because he has the information that I don't. When it comes to Zion, I think that my comp for him purely would be Derrick Hall, and like Derrick Hall has flashes of DeMarcus Lawrence's game and his game. So too does this guy without it being a pure comp. But I think you could go to much more of a pure comp of saying, well, this is a Derrick Hall. And if Derrick Hall moves on next year, we have our guy we can push into the Derrick Hall role within this four Rudge edge group without missing a beat by next year, even after giving him a year to kind of learn the ropes. And I would understand that. And so it makes a lot of sense as to why they've met with him, because the game is just almost down the line to me, Brendan, exact with Derrick Hall. It's power, it's bull rush. Sometimes every once in a while, they'll give you a little bit of the counter to the outside. There's some counters to the inside on the jab, step inside here and there that he'll bring out, but there are some tight hips, like you get a little bit with Derrick Hall, that are preventing him from turning the corner. You can feel a little bit on the loops and the stunts and the twists where he can't always corner that thing as tightly. But as far as straightforward power goes, and as far as like putting the length that he does have to work, I think you see that over and over again. You saw teams unwilling to run at him. I watched a collection of games where just felt like over and over again, teams were really not trying to run in his direction and go to the other side. And the other side has an NFL prospect on it. So it wasn't like they were just weak completely Missouri to the other side at that point. They had actually a legitimate NFL player over there too. So I think a pretty sound player, Brendan, but a guy that is, you see the fit, you see the power, you see how he could be a power edge. You mentioned he's got a bit of that Boye mentality that fits so nicely in this defense, and we have already so many of those kind of guys. I think I can understand why the fit would be right there.
Yeah. If we get him at 32, I'm down. I am down.
All right, next, and then next guy up here would be R. Mason Thomas, and he is a guy that I would say no issues if I'm a team that looks at this guy as a pure fit to my system and looking at him in the second round. But I myself have dinged him down a little bit at rounds later than that into round 3 for the Seattle Seahawks from their perspective of it, just because I'm not quite sure that the measurable fit. We talked about this, the rip, 6'2", 241, 31, 6'3" arms. So Brendan, with R. Mason Thomas, where do you stand on him as far as a potential Seattle Seahawk?
Yeah, that combine let the air out of the room, didn't it? Like, you can't be this small and run a 1.63 10-yard split. I don't think that's I don't know if I buy that. That's a tough one. Still not a bad player. He's crafty in attacking gaps. He causes disruption. His first steps off the snap on the tape are pretty rapid and violent. He bends the corner well. He's got powerful hands, even though they're very, very small. And he's also a good weak side defender. He can chase down plays from the weak side. But he's very small. He's not really strong, not somebody that's going to work through blockers. He's somebody that gets stuck on blockers. The testing numbers are concerning. The lack of length pops up. Even at the college level, it felt like that lack of length showed up. And I think he's missed at least time in 3 out of his last 4 seasons. So injuries are also an issue. So not really a good run defender. If you want an undersized speed rusher, sure. Even then, though, I'd go late second round, and not even in this defense. In this defense, I don't even know if you could take him in the 3rd round and feel good about it, because it just doesn't make sense.
Well, that's why with me, I put it that 3rd round, and it's sort of like, okay, if you're picking him at 30, whatever, we're at 32 or whatever it is in the 3rd round, then okay, fine. You can at least maybe talk me to that point. But I think all of what you mentioned, I would say I'm in agreement with. He's got to win with leverage every time in the run game. And if he can't do that, he's cooked up. And they can move him around a bit. And that's hard to always get that win in that leverage way, in that manner. I think he's all just too much of a snatch the edge guy. There's not enough counters. There's not enough working off power. There's not As you said, the length doesn't show up. Got a solid motor and effort to what he does. He's strong at the point of attack overall with his ability to win the leverage war, but I just don't know that he's going to be able to pull that off the next level consistently with those short arms, with the undersized build. And I just feel like it's a guy with a decent floor for a better scheme. Like if I have a 4-3 defense, I think that, hey, I'm going to bring him in for a rotational as a pass rusher, protect him against the run. And even then, I don't know where the upside really is for him on that. And a guy, if you're picking those day 2 and 3, I know this draft's weak, but like look a little bit, I feel like, to upside to a degree on some of these guys. And this is the type of guy I don't know if I see that as much on for what he's bringing to the table.
What you see is what you get.
What you see is what you kind of get. Mm-hmm. Keeping it moving. This is another guy that I have struggled with myself, but there's a lot of Hawk content creators. I got in some good debates last night on the syndicate in regards to this, Brendan. And this is Gabe Yakas, Illinois defensive end, thicker kind of edge rusher at 6'4", 260, 33-inch long arms, 10-inch hands. Don't have any real testing numbers to work off of him. 22 years old. Guy on the surface of it, Brendan, that is a power edgy, kinda on the look of the build. Did you find him to be power edgy on the tape?
Illinois took him off the field on rundowns surprisingly often, according to what I was looking at. Is that consistent with what you saw? That's a little disturbing, right? Illinois is they're not playing the best competition in the world every week, and he's still, they're kind of deploying him as more of a pass rusher. So that has to alarm you a little bit. Now, he is strong. He holds his ground well. He works through contact pretty well, but it is one of those things where that has to be a little bit suspicious for you. Go ahead.
No. You're on it. Keep going. I'm right with you.
Yeah. He uses his hands violently. He's versatile. He can line up all up and down the line. He's got a little bit of burst. He's got a little bit of bend. So there is some athleticism here. I think he can handle coverage drops. It's just, he's not super explosive. He's got a limited package of pass rush moves. He's still raw, inconsistent. The technique is not all there yet. And again, it's just one of those things where, he looks the part, but he didn't really play the part at Illinois. I think the issues are fixable. I do. I think that he can be fixed. I do think okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good. Keep going.
I think he can fit the Mike Macdonald defense. It's just concerning that he wasn't a better run defender in college.
And so you've touched on it. I think I'm even more ardent in this area of it, in that I look at him as a guy that, if you look at the build, yes, the build on the surface is there. You mentioned getting off the field and run plays. And yes, that's indicative in college football when you're seeing teams protect their edge in such a manner. You got to start to raise a little bit of alarm bells and go, why are they doing this? When I watch him, it's quickness and explosion on a heavier frame mixed with strong hand usage and bend. So he's a guy that really works a little bit more off the finesse elements of his game to try to go win, despite the fact he's a bigger guy. And that this system wants the bigger guy to play like a big guy. So when I watch him trying to set the edge, it's more of an attacking type dude. It's more of a guy that wants, a little bit like Mesador was, but there's even more actually than Mesador. This was a guy that just consistently, when he was out there and run plays, was kind of bat out of hell, launch off the line of scrimmage. I ain't controlling a gap. I'm just trying to get upfield in a single gap. And that's where I struggle at times to see the fit to this system, because I just don't think he's got that inherent base, that foundation there in his game that he needs to have to work within this defense as that kind of edge. I like his game. He's got a good speed, bull rip, consistent leverage winner, capable hand fighter, above average motor. I wouldn't call it full on like high motor, but it's strong. He is just so much of a better pass rusher to me than a run defender. And I don't know how great of a pass rusher he's going to be at the next level in the manner by which he wins necessarily. Because he's not necessarily super long or anything like that. And there is a little bit of lack of awareness for me with him. There's a little bit of which way did he go kind of thing going on at times in the run game with that getting upfield out of control and not looking around. And it just it doesn't have me out on him. I think you said he'll be a good player and this stuff's correctable. I'm not pushing back on that. You're right about that. Just another guy like R. Mason Thomas that I go, there's just probably another team with another system that'll like him just getting upfield and attacking a little bit more than we. That makes him a little bit more of an attractive proposition to them versus us.
Yeah, I would definitely be willing to take him in the second, but he's getting bumped up towards like the first, and I wouldn't love taking him in the first. I'll put it to you that way.
No, I would not be a fan of that. I'll accept whatever they do if they've got faith. There's a lot, they've earned the right for a lot of being the given goodwill when it comes to this draft for sure. But just in general, walking in the draft, looking at the evaluation, it's kind of hard to find his fit exactly, or to me, why he's exactly vaulting up as much as he is. I like him, day 2 guy, no doubt about that. But I don't even have him quite in the second round. I got him right at the top of the third round, Brendan, from my perspective.
Okay.
I think that's a fair place. People get mad at that one, though. There's some people got mad about Gabe Yakas. They want me to love him, man. I'm trying, folks. I keep going back. I'm trying. All right. Next gap. Actually, let's get a couple, we got a couple donos here, Brendan. Let's get these knocked out here.
All right.
Poppin' Bottles. Thank you for the $2 donation, Poppin' Bottles. Appreciate everything you all do. Happy Easter. Well, happy Easter to you too, my man. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. Very kind of you, brother. Dylan Sosa with a $5 donation on your side. If Love falls out of the top 10, should we trade 32 and next year's first to move up? I saw Brock Heward mention this, and if not, who would you all do that for?
Oh boy. I haven't really thought about this because I don't think there's any way in the universe that he falls out of the top 10, but I don't know. It's still a running back, man. It's still a running back. I don't want to give up my first, like if I'm going to do that, can it be for a quarterback or an edge rusher or even like a more valuable high leverage position, you know?
Well, Dylan, I think you touch upon the trade that we were bringing up earlier on this show, which was for me was Ruben Bane was the guy that I thought if he fell to 10, I think you're in the right spot to where when you start to fall to 9 or 10, I think now you're talking about it being just flat. Your first and the next year's first in this year's draft. If that it's more than that, you just go, I am not doing it. I don't really want to do it. Or if it's just barely more than that, then maybe you're willing to do it. If it's Tyrese Knight, your future first and this year's first, something like that. I know Brendan's got some hesitancy on next year's first. Mine isn't because while I do acknowledge the next year's draft is really strong, especially for blue chip prospects, when I look at the schedule next year that we're going to be playing, I'm seeing 11 wins on that schedule all day minimum. I'm seeing us picking at 23 as a bare minimum next year. And I'm just not going to be that hesitant in that anticipation that that's a worrisome pick to give up, especially being that we don't have to go find a quarterback. While I don't have Love in the same territory as I had guys like Ashton Genty and Bijan Robinson, he's close. And you do need to address the running back position. And this would be a difference maker versus the other guys you're picking in this draft or looking at in other ways are not going to be difference makers. So from my perspective, I'd be open to it. I would probably lean like Brendan would to more of a Bane as far as positionally goes. But I'd be open to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't hate it. Like I would see the upside. It would be one of those, it's like when we traded for Jamal Adams. Yeah, it was scary, but I saw the upside and I was still like, oh, this could be fun.
Yeah. And it's definitely one that's going to get some rankles of some people up. I get it, but I keep coming back to Brendan. We're turning through this. This is you picking at 32. This is you picking through second round players at this point pretty heartily. You got to always, to me, keep in mind with this pick where we'd be giving up first and foremost. It's not a prime pick that's offering somebody like great stuff back in return. So, I'd be open to it. Great suggestion there, Dylan. Starburster with a $3 super sticker on your side of things. Thank you for that, Starburster. Very kind of you, brother.
Thank you, Starburster. I don't know what the sticker is. We can't see it on StreamYard, but I'll assume it was something really cool.
Amen. Vin Russo dropping a $5 donation. Thank you for that, Vin. Says Zion Young had a 1.72 split, slower than Cable do. Gabe Yakas had a 1.59, and he's a hog.
I mean, you kind of know that Zion Young has the low split. He's not that kind of player. Like I think you make your peace with that. You don't need a power edge to have some really low split. Like I'll bet if Jadeveon Clowney ran a 40-yard dash right now, his split would be like what, 1.8?
probably at least around over 1.72, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And he's still a really good player, and he's still a player that I think we both would love to have. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's true, but we're not getting him for his first step quickness and split. We're getting him because we think he's a power edge. Amen.
And that's sort of the price I think you have to pay a little bit, Vin, when you do this. Obviously, 1.72 is concerning, so don't get me wrong there where you're like, ooh, that's not just like a little slower. It's really slower on that side. Some guys just aren't the greatest of testers, and I will say that when it comes to 1.72, I don't feel him that slow off the line of scrimmage when I'm watching his tape. It doesn't feel like 1.72 on tape to me. Is it near the 1.59 of Yakas? Well, no, but it's probably more somewhere in between on these kind of numbers. He's probably more of a pure 1.62 guy, 1.63 guy when it comes to his on tape, actual quickness goes. And he does have some initial 3-step quickness, if not 10-yard quickness, which is another part of this that I think is worth noting. Gabe Yakas is going to be quicker and more attacking, but that hog aspect, is he a hog that holds the line, or is he a hog that's trying to get upfield? And if he's a hog gets upfield, I'm agreeing with you 100% there, Vin. Yeah, he absolutely will. He's gonna be a guy that could be a kind of a play wrecker type of guy. But you do tend to ask your edges to play under control. You do tend to ask your front four to close the pocket like an open hand becomes a fist, rather than one of the fingers suddenly jumps like this and the other 3 fingers are holding the line, but this one finger is just going to go and try to do this thing. So that's where, to me, it all works together, this front four, in tandem. You're crushing the pockets from this edge, you're working your action up the middle, and then you're closing in on the quarterback. The reason being is that then you never give the quarterback any exits within the pocket to get away, which, of course, with Mike Macdonald, he's spoken about many times over. One of the most problematic things against his defense that he hates is the extension of plays. Is to win the play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds into the play, but then lose it in 6 and 7 seconds because you've given the quarterback the ability to break the pocket and find an open hole out there. So that's why I'm trying to accentuate this, for why I'm trying to explain the reasoning behind why we're so hyper targeted on these power edges, is because that's what he's trying to do fundamentally, playing and play out to the pocket more often than not. If he's not running a simulated pressure or a stack box or a blitz or something, right? If it's just the front four that's attacking on a play, it's going to be more of that closing down like this more than lightning fast from this. And that's why it's slow pressure. It's all kind of baked in, though. It's part of what they're doing on purpose within this.
Yeah, looking at a guy like Zion Young for his 10-yard split, it's kind of like watching a movie like Star Wars and then being upset that there wasn't enough nihilism in it or something. It's like, well, then why did you watch Star Wars? Like that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for other things. It's okay. And, not everybody's going to have everything. And Zion Young doesn't have everything, but what he has is, I think, what we're looking for.
Absolutely. And when it comes to Gabe Yakas, just lastly on this, Vince, and thank you for the donation. There's always those prospects every year that I'm maybe not just as much in on. Some Seahawks fans are really hyped to trot in. And I think I've definitely started to already feel some of the sensitive territory that you get into in some of this draft season, where people have their guys and they're very they love those guys, and then you're kind of not as much on those guys, and it starts to get into some feeling mode of it, where it's like, there's going to be disagreements on this stuff, and we don't have all the answers, me and Brendan. We try to do as much homework as we can for you guys. We're not just looking at highlights. We're grinding all 22 tape. We're looking through as much as we possibly can to give you guys, as educated opinion as we possibly can give you. But everyone's got something different under the sun to a degree, and there's going to be disagreements. It's just the fun of the discussion to try to turn it over as you lead up to the draft and then hopefully get close to the truth. But if they grab Yakas or any of these other guys that maybe we're not as much through over the moon on, I'm going to support it. You just came off a Super Bowl. The team has absolutely, more than any other recent years, earned the benefit of the doubt in their approach to this draft. So that's kind of be where I'm standing. But Yakas just might be one of those guys I'm just not quite able to align up in the same way other Hawk fans are able to see on tape what other fans are necessarily seeing from that perspective, purely of the fit to the Macdonald defense. And that may be my failing on that. We'll come to see on that.
Yeah, I remember 4 years ago, we both didn't like Ken Walker that much in the draft, actually. We both kind of didn't get the feel for him. And that ended up working out okay. It does happen. It's not a big deal. But we got to go with our read.
Yeah, in doing draft coverage, you don't have to be right about every player in perpetuity to be able to continue to do draft coverage. Like, you're going to have guys you're wrong. Everybody who covers drafts is going to have some people that you're going to be off on and you're not going to be right on. It's just, to me, it's more important about convictions and honesty and us being truthful to you guys and not gassing you up and saying, oh, we love this player because everybody loves this player. And I hate the draft coverage where it's all just purely positive at every turn, where everybody's gassing you up that everybody's amazing, which I think is a lot of draft coverage. And I think that's easy. And it's also kind of empty draft coverage because they're not being honest with you. They're just kind of telling you the good stuff and not any of the bad stuff. And it's like, well, not all these players hit every year. In fact, a lot of them are misses. So it's as much about, to me, finding the deficiencies that make them misses as much as finding the flashes that make them hits.
Yeah. I thought Zach Wilson was going to be really good, by the way. I liked Zach Wilson a lot.
Well, that pro day throw, bro. Pro day throw, Yep. Sandman with a $5 donation. Thank you for that, Sandman. I think Jonah Coleman in the 3rd or 4th is more worth than taking Price too early. Have you gotten warmed up to Jadarian Price yet?
Well, I mean,
last couple
taking him too early kind of implies that you're taking, right? Like there's a direct implication there, right? How early is too early for Jadarian Price? I don't know exactly, but for me, if we get him at 32, yeah, that's a little bit hard. That's a little bit tough for me to swallow. I admit that. I'm not going to be furious about it or anything the way I was when we drafted Jordan Brooks, because I didn't even know who Jordan Brooks was. Like, literally, I covered that draft and I still did not know who that was until we took him. I'd never heard that name before. This would be different. This would not be the same thing, but it would also feel a little unambitious. It would feel like you're aiming for a pretty low target there. And I don't think there's anything that's not a capital offense, but it does feel a little bit boring.
Yeah, it would be a little boring for me too on that. And that's kind of your thoughts are where I'm at on Jadarian Price as well. Just I think you're looking at right now probably having to grab him early based on the heat that he has behind him, and I just don't think that his talent necessitates that necessarily. Whereas with Jonah Coleman, I think you got potentially a little bit of a depressed asset here, Brendan, where he has a little bit of injury, plagued final year there at Washington, which doesn't have the tape as good as it was back the final year. And so is he able to get healthy from that injury? Well, if the answer is yes, and you're going to get the version of the player that was in 2024 running really well, especially off of the contact balance and all that. In the third round, I think that's great value if you can find him there. And I think you have to jump there at that point, Sam, man. I don't think he gets into the fourth, but into the third.
I would do that, yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you, Sam, man. Great suggestion. A Starburster with another $1.49 dono there on Brendan's side. Thank you for that, Starburster. Very kind of you. Upo CEO with a $10 dono on Brendan's side as well. Hey, guys. Appreciate all the hard work and effort you do. John Schneider has earned a freebie year from me. I won't criticize our picks this year unless, just kidding, I'll give John Schneider a year of grace. Fair points.
I mean, this is the tough part of running a channel like this. This is like the hard part, where you have to acknowledge that John Schneider clearly knows more than we do about this stuff. Clearly, he's in the industry. He's currently, you'd probably say he's the best general manager in football. Like, as of right now, he is doing it better than anybody else. But at the same time, we don't want to act like that makes him immune from doing bad things and making mistakes. So it's hard to balance that, I think. And we do the best that we can. And I will say, I don't think there's much that he can do in this draft that will make me mad. Right? I would say that. Like, I was mad last year when we took Jalen Milroe, because that just didn't make any sense to me. I got pretty mad when we did that. That was like, I almost felt a little embarrassed because he was one of my least favorite players in the draft. But I don't think that's going to happen this year. I'm not going to get mad about it. I might be still somewhat critical of it, but I get this sentiment.
Yeah, well, there felt so much on the line last year with the picks that you had from Gino and DK too, and that you had to hit those right? And so I was in the same place, kind of similar to where you were with it on that last year, and I agree. I'm not going to be in that place this year. It's, as you say, Upo, that John has earned the benefit of the doubt right now, in that where he's going with. You're not sitting with super prime picks in this draft. It's a weaker draft as well. We probably want to be considering all of this across the board. And that being the case, even if I don't necessarily love these guys we're talking about here, and they do end up taking him, if Gabe Yakas is taken, I'm not going to sit there and get pissy about Gabe Yakas being taken. You need an edge. The guy's going to be able to be disruptive. It's fine. Give some of the benefit out there. It won't change my perspective and view of my evaluation on him, because that's the fun part of doing this, is that we're always trying to get better at how we look at these guys and evaluate these guys, and hopefully refine the process every single year to getting closer on being able to get right with these guys. And I think our track record has been pretty good with most of the prospects in general terms, as we've gone through and done this for many years now. Thank you, though, Upo. Well said on your part, brother. All right, so Gabe Yakas, I think we moved through him. Where did you have him at, by the way, on yours?
I'd put him in the second. I'd put him in the second. And like I said, if we got him in the first, I wouldn't love it, but I wouldn't strongly object to it. It'd just be like, okay, let's hope he's fixable. I think he is.
And I have as a top of the third round. So if you do take him at the end of the second round, it's not a gross overstep at that point, but I just have him a little bit on that lower side of where I'd be needing to take him if we're going to grab him there. Next guy is a guy I'm really excited about. A guy that I definitely got a fondness for through this draft process. Derrick Moore out of Michigan, a 23-year-old, 6'4", 255-pound edge, 33 and a 38-inch arms. He's got okay hand size, no testing numbers to go off of with him, but I found him to be a nice, pure power edge fit. Brendan has got some pass rush, got some run defense, complete player, not a lot of holes in the game, strong floor, not a super high upside.
I found him to be a little bit more of a pass rusher than a run defender personally. Although I feel like a lot of that is probably because of his lack of experience. He didn't play a ton in college. Like, I think that the last 2 years were the first years where he was starting to really get a featured role. I do think he'll improve. I think he will improve quickly because he didn't play that much in college. I think he's going to become a good all-around player. I'm not convinced that he's coming out of the box as somebody that can play every down. I will say that. But he puts tackles on their back foot with quickness out of his stance. He adds some legit pass rush moves in there. Good mover, good athlete, somebody that can play standing up, good pop into contact, smart football player. Right now, though, I feel like he's mostly, it might be like a Derrick Hall thing, right? Because Derrick Hall at first was just a pure pass rusher. And then as time went on, he became somebody that could be an every down player. I could see that happening here. So I put him in the middle second round. I would take the chance. I like him.
Yeah, I'm probably a little more fan maybe than you are. I was trying to check and see where he was at on his potential at least run grade last year with PFF and where they had him at on that. I found him to be at least fairly strong as a run defender. I will give you that I do think that his pass rush is probably where it's is better at this moment, but I thought his in-play awareness, how he played with great strength. I thought he could set the edge really well at times as far as how he operated in that defense. Really got a lot in what he brings as a pass rusher, especially from like the lower half. You mentioned jab step. He's got kind of a stutter step move he can do leading up to contact at the edge of the arc. He's also willing to have a little bit of quickness to go take the arc from time to time, so he can hit you from a variety of different places as far as his pass rush goes. I found him to be a really good disengager off blocks, just hard to stay blocked. I see him as a guy that's going to round into being a Derrick Hall kind of upside of a solid run defending guy that can maybe get you into that 8 to 10 sack a year kind of place of things when he really fully develops. Probably take about a year to get there. Not going to get it probably out the rip, but liked how he hand fought, great motor, team captain, multi-year starter, got better every year he played through college, in my opinion. Just felt like there's a lot of reason to believe that this guy will continue to get better. That's been his track record, and I think he brings an all-around game to play.
Yeah, nice little player. I like him. Where'd you put him? I had him in the middle second.
I had him as well in the middle second, so I would have put him, I'm actually probably going to put him over Cashius Howell at this point. So it'd probably go for me, you'd have Zion Young, Mesador, TJ Parker, Moore, Howell would be my current pecking order, I think, on that.
Okay.
Next up, we have another guy that reminds me actually of a former Seattle Seahawk. Yeah, kind of great, with missing one key part to his game, Brendan. So Malachi Lawrence, another guy that a little bit like Gabe Yakas has been a Seattle Seahawks fan favorite amongst some of what I've seen from the community out there. 6'4", 253, 33 and 6 3/8 inch arms. He also did a 4.5 240, which isn't too shabby, with a 1.59 10-yard split, which is it's all right. 40-inch vertical leap, explosive, 10-10 broad as well, so almost 11-inch broad, so very explosive in the short spaces.
One of the biggest winners of the combine this year.
One of the biggest winners of the combine of this year. So we'll let get your thought, but I want to lead into this, Brendan, with because I want to bounce some of this off you too, or you think with him. I found him to be a Cliff Averill comp. The one rub here, though, is he doesn't have the 1.52 Cliff Averill 10-yard split. Averill was lightning coming out with the combine. And that's where, to me, that's a key difference as well, for the fact that that's more of a type of player to me that works more in the 4-3 defense, put his hand in the dirt, let him operate like that. Kind of like David Bailey a little bit in the same way. Or you could do a 3-4, but just allow them to really be out there trying to take the edge if they're going to be operating that kind of defense. Where did you find him at?
Yeah, he's not small, right? He's a little undersized compared to some of the guys that we like, but 253 is not 240, so that's nice. The length is good too. He's got decently long arms. They're passable at least. He's got a lot of genuine pass rush moves. He's got a legitimate pass rush bag. Good hand usage as well. He's got a high motor. He gives high effort. The testing scores are eye-popping. But he's not really a super reliable run defender. I think he sometimes chases big plays to the detriment of defensive integrity. Like, you're not supposed to always chase the ball. The all-time great example of this was one year for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jason Babin had, I want to say, 19 sacks, and the fans all still hated him because it didn't make up for how bad he was playing on the other snaps. He did play weaker competition in college because he's a UCF guy, and even there, he wasn't super productive. So it is one of those things where it's like, wait a minute, if you weren't that productive against those guys, how are you going to be productive in the NFL? And he doesn't really win with power either. So I don't know if he's a good fit. He's got crazy good upside, though. I think he's a second round player, maybe even in the early part of the second. I just don't know if the Seahawks would really want him because he's not really their kind of player.
Yeah, I found things to be pretty similar in alignment to you on this. He's a snatch the edge guy. He gets off blocks quick. He's got a great chop move, variety of other pass rush kind of stuff he can kind of bring in there with you, especially the hand usage and finding the dip and the bend off the hand usage, working off contact. I think you're right about the run defense. I just don't feel him as a set the edge guy. I think he's more of a try to chase it down type of dude, or more of the penetrating type of guy. That's just kind of, he's not awful with setting the edge, but it's just not a strength of his game. It's just not. I think he does change up his pass rush moves. He does have a plan of attack. The level of competition is all in play on this. But again, I just came back to like not quite as strong enough at the point of attack for what you're going to be needing in this system to work. As you say, he's physically very gifted, and the upside here is very true, which I think you're right, that for another team, second round in a different system, that would be more of a, the Tennessee Titans, for instance, with Saleh down there. This kind of guy into that defense makes a lot of sense to me. But I don't know if for us in our fit that I see as much of the true fit there, again, versus some of the other options out here, like a Derrick Moore that we just talked about, for instance, that does, I think, play with a little bit more of that fashion, have a little bit more of the competition aspect in play that you understand on. So he's also maybe a guy better at putting his hand in the dirt. I'm not as sure on this one, but that's another guy with a little bit of questions on hand to dirt versus standing up kind of guy.
Right.
So yeah, I'm in the same place you are. I don't have a lot more to add than what you added on top of that. I think it's just, that's, it's, I want to get to the edge of the arc every time. I want to get to the edge of the arc every time. I want to get to the edge of the arc. There's not counters. There's not in-play counters. There's not change-ups on a jab step inside. It's just get to the edge. And those guys lead to getting thrown out the back of the club more often than not because tackles can anticipate that particular move.
Yeah, I like him, but I don't know if I really want him on my team. It's just one of those things.
Very well said. Very well said. Another guy I think we've got some decent upside here and would be, I think, one of my, we got a couple. I got one other guy here that'll have as far as a second round guy, but another guy that I like quite a bit in this draft, Brendan, as far as the Seattle Seahawks fit. And a guy that I think has a little bit of that, again, some freakish elements to him that we don't get from some of these other edges in this thing, though maybe a little bit rawer. What do you think about Danny Dennis Sutton, the Penn State edge? DDS.
I ended up liking this one more than I thought I would because this was another guy who just fell on his face this year. He was supposed to be a first-round pick. At this point, maybe he's a second-round pick. I don't know. He fell off. He did not have the year that people thought he would. But I ended up looking at Denise Sutton and finding myself feeling like this could be a good fit for this defense. He's sturdy and tough, holds up against the run well, holds his ground, knows how to work through traffic, knows how to sift through blockers. He's got some legitimate pass rush moves as well, which you will not find with a lot of guys down in this portion of the draft, honestly. A lot of them win with talent. He's got a lot of college reps, and I think he'll be good in most schemes and roles. I think you can play him standing up. I think you can play him with his hand in the dirt. I think he can do different things. So I ended up coming away kind of feeling like, Penn State kind of does this sometimes where they have players that do not produce that much when they're there, and then they go to the NFL and they're way more impressive. Like, Micah Parsons is the all-time example, but even a guy like Theo Johnson, super athletic tight end, who didn't really do anything at Penn State for some reason. Like that, even that, and I know Theo Johnson hasn't been a great NFL player, but I still feel like he's probably been better in the NFL. So maybe Denise Sutton will be that because we know he's talented. He never had the true breakout. He tested really well. He doesn't necessarily look as good as he tested. Like the explosion scores, by the way, here are off the charts. The 11-foot broad almost is insane for a guy like this. The 6'9" 3-cone is fantastic. 93rd percentile. But he's not necessarily going to be a great pass rusher. Change of direction skills aren't great. Not a lot of bend either. But I could see Denise Sutton as like even a middle second rounder when you consider how I think he would fit into this defense. I got into this one way more than I thought I would.
I like him a lot as well. And I wish they would have with some of these players, I think running backs and edges especially would help if you had the 5-yard split more posted. I think the 10-yard split's great, but this is sometimes where a guy's not running 10 yards into the back of the box. Sometimes he's running 5 to 7 yards. And with him, the explosion scores show it's his first 3 steps, he's up to full speed. And when you have a guy that's this powerful that gets that quickly up to full speed, this is where you create the explosive power on contact at the edge of the arc. And this is where, to me, the power edges work so very well in this defense at their best when they can put those two combos. I'm not just strong, where it takes me an hour and a half to get to you, but then you get my power. I'm quick to you, and then the power's on top of you fast, and it's hard to deal with. And I think he gives you that. I think once he gets through a gap, his just general size makes him hard to knock off his path for tackles. He is a plan A guy. He is a guy that you probably would have hoped that there would have been more production, like you said, coming out of college. He's got some of those pass rush moves. He's developed this rip to sink move that just allows him to really rip, sink, get down to and take the edge. And so it gives him a little bit of some finesse to counter back off of the power that he has within his game that I like. I see a guy with some upside here, man, that I just don't necessarily see from the other guys. I don't know if I can quite get him up to vault him up higher than some of the other guys we've talked about here at the top of this, but I do think you're right about him being right in that sort of second round range and it being understandable, because here's another guy that you have draft with not a lot of the upside guys. Here to me is a guy that does have that upside that's there. And I think there's a lot of reason to believe he can develop really good against the run, Brendan. No one wanted to run at him with Penn State. That's part of the reason you have the lack of production, is when teams did run, they were always running to the other side of the field. Just about impossible to move at the point of attack. He's a really great fit, I think, to the Seattle Seahawks defense.
Yeah, this might be a guy that on other defenses, yeah, maybe he's not super valuable, but here I could see him turning into something pretty nice.
The only wonder with him is just maybe a hand in the dirt guy. That's the only wonder I have with him a little bit, but it's just I don't have a certainty on that. I just wonder on that one. Some of these guys should just not.
Yeah, he's such a good athlete, though.
He is. I think he could make it work. I really do. So love me some Danny Denison. And you say, how do you pronounce the last name? Denis Sutton?
I go Denis Sutton because of Red Dead Redemption 2. The town of, what was it, Saint Denis, and it's spelled Dennis. So I just assume that's how it is, just because of the Red Dead Redemption 2 thing.
You might be right on it.
Mm-hmm.
You might be right. All right. I'm going to start pronouncing it that way, Brendan. Mm-hmm. Next guy up will be my last second round rated guy on my list. Actually, I have one other guy here. And that is going to be Romelo Kite. What a fun name. Texas Tech, the running mate of David Bailey out there at Texas Tech, like Akeem Mesador, another older guy, 25 years old, 6'3", 239, 32 and 2.5-inch arms. So arms a little undersized, weight a little undersized, hands a little small. 4'6", 440, not bad. 163, 10-yard split. You do get some 39-inch vert, which is nice, and a good broad jump. So there is some explosiveness there to him in that first step, two-step quickness variety. Where were you at on Romelo Kite?
I mean, first of all, definitely not here, right? We know that, right? This guy's sub 240. Like, this is not, This is amateur hour. Yeah. But even beyond that, like, okay, first step quickness, like you said, explosive mover. He's got moves and fakes and all kinds of stuff he can whip out coming into the league. He comes out of the box ready to go. High effort. He should be able to do stand-up edge stuff. He should be able to drop into coverage. He's got bend. But, man, is he small. He is very small. He's got a lack of length. The hand game is a bit weak with him, I think. He's already 25, so how much better is he really going to get? Probably not that much. And he is a non-factor in the run game. So there's a place in the world for a player like this, but I wasn't super into it. Like, middle third for me, and not even that here.
Yeah, it might be a guy I got to end up putting in the third. I forgot about his age being up there at 25 when I did my evaluation in the second. So it might be a guy that I do get in the third because of his age. I thought he reminded me a little bit of Nick Bonito coming off tape out of Oklahoma. We scouted a lot of him coming out. Similar, where just a lot of pass rush moves he brings. He's got the legit ghost move, snappy spin, two-handed swipe. He can dip around contact, definitely an edge, go get an edge kind of guy, but he's kind of a high cut athlete while also being a little bit, as you said, undersized and kind of light in what he does. And he will get pushed around as a run defender. So I think this is a very simple one to me, Brennan. Nick Bonito went to Denver, and you go to Denver and that defense, because Denver does run blitzes to basically they soup their run defense up, not by lightening the box, but by heavying it up. Thus, you have a guy like him, the setting the edge thing becomes less important because he can do more of the one gapping stuff. So I thought the best fit for him defensively wise, go to Denver or go to like a Minnesota defense. I thought that those are the two that would be better suited for Romelo.
Yeah. Just, again, decent player. Don't want him.
All right, keeping it moving along here. Joshua Josephs is a Tennessee pass rusher, 23 years old, 6'3", 242, gargantuan long arms, 34 and a quarter long inch arms, 10-inch hands. I don't get that 79 percentile thing. I don't know what they're, I don't know if we get that many guys every year that have got these kind of long arms like that. There's something weird with that percentile.
Well, the percentile is over the last 27 years. So I
Okay.
think they used to be longer. I
Okay.
think that they don't make them the way they used to is the impression I get, you know?
Okay. Maybe, all right, maybe there's something there to it. So Joshua Josephs, 242, Brendan. Another guy to me on this one as we look at it that I don't know about on as far as the size. We kind of, to me, file him under the R. Mason Thomas. You file him under the Nick Bonito. A fine prospect, definitely that. But does he really fit to this defense?
He could add a little bit of weight. He's got the frame for it. I'll say that. And I can't say that about some of these other guys.
It's fair. Where you at with him?
So like he could add some weight. The length is really nice, obviously. He seems willing to play through contact, willing to get physical, nice handwork. He's a pretty good athlete. I know he didn't do anything at the combine, but you watch him, you get the sense he's a pretty good athlete, but doesn't really have the fluid movement skills. He needs some power. He's not going to be good against the run right now. He needs some more moves. I mean, he's got tight hips. He didn't produce that much in college. How excited am I going to be? You know, it's like I ended up saying maybe late third round. Maybe. I couldn't get into this one. I just like he's got tight hips. He's got limited production. He's undersized. Well, what am I going to do?
I'm kind of in a similar place. And you're right about maybe he could add a little bit of weight on there. But he does lean so much on the burst, you know, and then the bend. Like, does that start to remove that aspect of his game when you have to do that? He really has this nice bounce hand swipe move to create pressure where he sort of bounces and then hand swipes at the same time uniquely, which allowed him to create a lot of the separation. But you talked about the change of direction, and I found that he had to sort of tap dance when he had to change direction. You know, it was kind of like then I can go back the other way when I've got to stop and go back this way. And that speaks to a little bit of just inability to kind of just turn, flip your hips, move like just a little bit of, and he is athletic, which is the odd part about that showing up on tape in the way that it did. I did just think as well, he'd get wore down over the course of the game at his size. You could feel him if he played too many snaps in that Tennessee defense, he would start to kind of tap out a little bit. Did have a brace on his leg all year long, so I kind of wondered a little bit about that as well, maybe inhibiting some of his production or ability to play maybe as strong. Just don't see a lot in his game that's a fit to this defense, like you said. I think that there's going to be better spots that he's probably better suited to be in. Like you said, probably like day 3 would be more where I'm at with that one. Now, you didn't have a chance to take a look at Damon Wilson, it didn't look like. Did you? Oh, you're muted.
My bad. Yeah, I don't know if I know who that is. The name sounds familiar, but for whatever reason, are you sure he didn't go back to college? Because I did not see him on the big board.
I thought he was in top.
Maybe he got added recently because I put together this list a while ago.
Oh, no, you're right. Maybe Miami Hurricanes. Okay. So there we go. Boom. Let's take him. Then we go. That made sense. I was looking it up the other night and it said he was top 90, but that must have been an over old thing. So he did go to Miami.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I just said, all right, that makes sense.
So we are now outside of basically here the top 3 rounds at this point, folks. We've kind of gotten into those where we're at with those the top guys we talked about the first 3 rounds. We're going to get into more of the 4th round, and we do start off with a guy that would be a fit to Seattle into the 4th round. LT Overton, liked his size, liked his build, definitely fit to this defense, Brendan. But he was a guy that left me wanting a little bit on tape.
Yeah, LT Overton. I mean, he's a big edge, man. He's a big edge. He's got plenty of power. He's got some violence. He gets low, which I love. He knows how to get low, win with leverage. Good hand fighter. I think he'll be somewhat versatile at the next level, although maybe not in the way that we're necessarily looking for. He covers a lot of ground for a guy his size. And he works through blocks pretty well. There's some physical stuff here, but you know, he's not really a pass rusher. He's not really getting to that quarterback. He could end up being kind of positionless. He could be like too small to slide inside, too big to play on the outside. Like, I don't totally know what he's going to be at the NFL level. He's got no first step whatsoever. His first step is like nothing. He's only a good athlete by the standards of his large size. So he's a pretty mediocre athlete. And he didn't produce that much in college. And at the end of the day, like, if you're not that productive in college, I know he's only going to be 21 when the season starts, but so I could see him being a decent or early down defender in the NFL. McDonald might be kind of into this kind of thing, but I ended up going like late third, early fourth, somewhere around there. Just kind of, this might be in this draft, especially. I could see there's having a little bit of fun here.
A little bit of a tweener, right? Kind of an epitome of a tweener here, where you don't really find the fit. It isn't even like we have with Keldric Faulk, where you could see some inside outside ability at the pro level and what he can do with his size. And some of it with him, as you mentioned, is some of that just initial lack of quickness, or that initial slowness, if you were, that does show up in his game. Overton, power edge. He is big and he plays big. So heavy hands, rocks back tackles, seems to have good length. As they 32 and 2.5 inch arms, it felt like even is a little better on the field and how it played out on that, but good length there. Just not many bad pass rush moves, kind of simplistic in how he's going to go about what he's going to do. I think you're right about maybe he's got some value if you take him in the fourth round, as you're looking at him as kind of an early rundown edge guy that can be over in that spot and kind of maybe be an upgrade over what you've had to Mike Morris and Jared Ivey, is maybe what the team would be thinking there, in that way that they could plug and play him in that way. But definitely not a guy, I think, even in the long term, that's going to give you much as far as pass rush goes. But no denying he could be a really good run defender on early downs.
So as of about 20 minutes ago, we have some NFL breaking news here that might be a little bit interesting to us, just a little bit. Okay. So want to go ahead and hit it real quick?
Yeah, let's go. What am I hitting?
Yeah, give me the drop, man. So the Jacksonville Jaguars have agreed to terms with star edge rusher Travon Walker on a 4-year, $110 million deal. So he is now locked up in Jacksonville for the foreseeable future. So some people were thinking maybe we'd want to trade for him. Not happening now.
Yeah, they hadn't gotten a contract done by around the trade deadline. That was going to be kind of one of your guys that maybe you look for down the lane, that you can if you can't get the edge dealt with now, Brendan, essentially maybe down the line you could. I think I had him as one of my guys here, but yeah, so he was one of my available at the deadline guys, Brendan, where you got a Montez Sweat if the Bears were to not be in contention. I know they will be likely, but if they were to fall out, then you had Sweat, you have Thibodeau, we had A-Chain, and we had Crosby. These kind of guys we were looking at as maybe around the deadline. Could be available, though, now with A-Chain. He had his contract redone as well. They put void year money on that. It does not seem to be indicating that they're attempting to look to move A-Chain either. So,
yeah, I mean, if they get to the deadline and they haven't won a game or something, maybe they'll reconsider. But right now, you're probably right. Seems like a pretty good deal for Walker, by the way. That's about $27.5 million a year. That plays. I don't hate that.
No, I don't hate that. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars offseason has been an odd one to me. You're coming off that losing season, and then your first initial foray into free agency is we're going to go play the compensatory game. And okay, but then you're losing Devin Lloyd within that. And to me, that's a guy that was really coming on playing at a top end level at the inside off-ball linebacker position for you last year in a pretty major way. And that's going to be a big loss for them. But the Walker has been a consistent player for them since coming over from Georgia. And I think that's about the right price. It's a guy that can push to be 12, 13 sacks a year kind of guy at his best, but a guy that's never going to push up into that 17, 18 sacks and be completely dominant. He's a good run defender in addition to it. So, it's he was kind of one of those easier evaluations coming out where he's fit to about what he is what you thought he'd be. And you're taking him really early at that point, but there's a guy that gives you a really strong run defense and then can give you the 12 sacks, maybe push even a 13 in a given year. You'll take that in the top number one overall pick, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm down with it.
All right, we got one more guy to take a look at here, and this is just an interesting guy from my perspective of things, Brendan, just kind of fun. Kaden Curry, guy do I have in the fourth round myself. What were your thoughts on old Kaden Curry out of Ohio State? 6'3", 257, really small arms, that 30 and 1/3 inch spot, but where are you at on him?
This was the guy who wrecked Demon Williams in the UW Ohio State game last year, by the way. So even if you guys don't think you don't know him, you do. You probably do, actually. So anyway, good numbers last year, 11 sacks against good competition. Ohio State plays a real schedule. He fights through traffic to get to the ball well. He's comfortable in space, has some strength to take control against the run. It's not all just speed and quickness. First step and bend is legitimate. But man, I mean, these are shorter arms than Cashius Howell, right? Like the arm length is a killer. Didn't play a lot in college. I think last year was his only full year of NFL play. Hand usage is still very raw. He's physically weak. He gets pushed around. He doesn't move all that well. He's not a smooth, fluid mover. And I feel like he's mostly a speed guy. He doesn't have a lot of like legitimate pass rush moves. So I feel like he needs to either add some weight or become more dynamic as a speed rusher. But I could see a use case for him on the edge on passing downs only. So late fourth feels fine if this is the kind of thing you want. Sure. I don't know if I'm into him, but late fourth round feels okay.
I think I liked him a little bit more than you. I think he's a blood and guts kind of edge with stubby arms that definitely show up. But I found he had some powerful ways in the way he operated. I thought he was more of a technician, I think, than what you kind of felt, where I felt like he could ebb and flow between power and slashing hands quite a bit. I thought he's got a bit of everything in his pass rushing bag without having to lean on like one particular move. There's some dip, some bend, a swim move to clear, a bull rush. He's even got a snapping spin move that he brings out, and he can execute when the tackle's getting a little bit overset or when the tackle's got him with the length. One of the ways that he works off the length is he'll pull back to a spin move snap to get off of it, which is kind of interesting. It's like it's a way that he's baked in his game to sort of clear that deficiency that he can't do anything about. Just a never give up kind of mentality. A guy that's going to, as I think is maybe as good a player in this draft at rallying to the football. And that's so big in this defense of players getting to the football and constantly running with a high motor at all times. It might be one of your more high motor guys out there. I do think he is an average athlete. I think the T-Rex arms are definitely a real thing that are going to inhibit him a little bit. But back in the fourth round, I thought he had a fairly complete game that he brought, albeit the arms aren't getting longer. And late fourth round, I got no issue with him at that point.
Yeah, he's all right. He's fine.
You just love a guy like that puts that kind of effort on the field. Especially again too, when he fights so hard to just get off blocks, fights so hard to rally the ball. And then, he's trying to go out there and make the play. He ain't just trying to get to the ball and look good on tape. He wants to go and actually make the play on top of it, which I thought really did stand out in his game.
Yeah, I respect it.
Want to throw a shout out, if I may, here to the sponsor of our show. And me and Brendan have got ourselves a new sponsor, folks. You may not know that, kind of a big deal, but we're very happy, both me and him, to welcome in. Just hold on here one second. I got to find my stupid file here. Is to welcome in Prize Picks. Prize Picks is now sponsoring both me and Brendan as number one sports app running the game today here. And if you use both of our codes, HMA, they will match you right now where you put $5 down on your lineup. They'll give you $50 in your lineups on top of that for just that $5 put down. You can see I've got my picks in play here for tonight's baseball games and out there and around. I got the Mariners with Brian Wu getting more than 7 Ks, Randy Arozarena getting more than 1.5 total bases, and then Aaron Nola for the Philadelphia Phillies going over 6 Ks himself. Brendan, you like that? You like those picks?
Yeah, sign me up for that, man. I like that a lot. I think you're good, man. I think you're good.
Price Picks has got a lot of different options available to you for how you want to select. You want to take, the more or less with the players, or actually pick into the games. There's a lot of different options to go into this app to go through. You can also be tracking on my picks as I go through if you want to be going note for note on that as well. So please do utilize that code today. It's also down in the description link section below. If you don't use the code HMA, you can just click the description section below. So some love here to both me and Brendan. Terms and conditions do apply. And of course, there are some limitations here with Prize Picks in that it's not in every single state, including Washington. But if you are in a casino in the state of Washington, you can use the app in full there. You can take advantage of this code within the casino. And we've got casinos all over the place in the state of Washington.
Yeah. And the promo code across both of us is the same. HMA for both of us, by the way. So whatever, as long as you use that promo code, you're helping both of us, man. So you don't have to choose.
You're showing love. Time. You don't have to choose. You don't have to. It's not Sophie's choice. You can go like, well, Brandon's got to get locked out of the sponsor. Brandon's got no. You're helping us both out at the same time, which we both love and dig. And appreciate you guys for using the codes as you guys have for quite a bit of time here on our channels. And thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. It's much, much appreciated and very proud to have them on and aboard. Well, Brendan, we got through the Edge group. There's definitely still some depths of some other guys in there, but going through them, I think that we could look and pick out a couple of these guys where you get into the 4th, 5th, 6th round, especially in this draft. It's really like you could roll your dice and tell you where you're going to get a guy that's going to have any kind of productivity or not. And you can certainly see the limitations on them that do stand out. I think that we've turned through really well in finding the guys that I think that do stand out that are the fits here to the Seahawks defense. And as we started at the top of the show, It's really going to be interesting in this draft to see if we're going to learn about what their approach is going to be to the edges. Because if you're not getting a snatch the edge kind of guy, because you can see where you come up for a pick, and if you're into snatch the edge guy, like you said on a couple of them yourself, I got this guy in the second round, but if Seattle were to be in the third, that's where I'd want Seattle take him in the third round. Well, if we see them jump on those kind of second round guys that are the snatch the edge guys, well, it tells us that we got to expand our outlook on the type of edges that Mike might be open to taking. But likewise, they go for the power. It more reinforces the point, does it not?
Yeah. And for now, I think we got to go with it. We got to try to narrow this down somehow, right? We got to try to narrow things down at least a little bit. And I think it's fair at this point. I think it's a fair evaluation that McDonald values one kind of edge play over another.
Yeah. And there's a strong reason for it. It's not just he likes a type. It's that he's got an inherent reason for why it makes his defense run. And it makes a lot of sense. Well, folks, if you could do me this favor, if you're watching on Seahawks Brendan Nelson's side or over here on the Hawks Nest, to sub up to either direction, as it's free to you, doesn't cost you a thing, as well as if you could hit that like button on either of our sides. It helps promote our shows out here on YouTube to those other folks out there looking for Hawk content and grade A draft coverage if they can find it. Really appreciate you guys watching today. Brandon, thank you for allowing us to kind of wait this out a day on this, as we got delayed yesterday because I was working through a little bit of a cold myself, but back 100% here, getting through it. And thank you for letting me take a little bit extra time on that one.
No problem, man. No problem. And so I guess we kind of got like two positions that we can still talk about a little bit. So one would be safety. I think safety, people are sleeping on that one a little bit. Julian Love might be in his last year here. Depends on how he plays. Okada's on a 1-year deal because of his tender. There's not a lot of depth, so there's safety. And then you also kind of have the defensive tackle / nose tackle situation, which is, I'll grant you, maybe a little bit thin because I don't know if there's a lot of room for one, but I think that's the other position that we need to spend a little bit of time on. And I think that takes us pretty much home. So that's what we're looking at in my mind.
We'll be covering those on the next probably couple of shows, and we'll be getting you guys out a mock draft here shortly with me and Brendan. Maybe we'll do a dueling mock draft thing like we did last year, a little bit in the same way. So all that will be en route here over the next couple of weeks as we get up into the draft coverage. And of course, we'll all be covering draft on draft day too as well. So yeah. Did we talk about it at all, the Garrett thing last week?
Yes, we did. I remember very clearly the Garrett thing. Like it's a fun thing to think about. I'm not going to go further than that, but it's fun.
We'll see where it goes. It's just interesting they moved the bonus. I'm still trying to wrap my head around why Cleveland, if they weren't intending to move him, would have moved that bonus in the place they did. You know, that's the part that I keep trying to understand on that deal. Like, why move the bonus if it's going to hit the cap in the same manner when it's all said and done? Just the timing of it.
It's like when your girlfriend goes up to you and it's like, hey, we're still dating, but I am going to be seeing another guy twice a month going forward. It's like, okay. No. I'm not down with that.
No, I ain't going to go for that. Well, thank you guys again for watching. We will be back in a week from now with probably safeties is what we'll be looking for next week. So we'll be diving on into the safety group, and it's a good class at that. So you'll want to tune in for that next Thursday. Really appreciate you watching. Brendan, thank you so much for doing this. Shout out to Prize Pick. Shout out to all those that donated to the channel today. You guys are awesome, as you guys always are. Back in a week here with the B&B show. But until next week, don't you ever forget, don't you dare forget, you got a championship team. I shouldn't have to remind you, but we do so anyway. So let you always remember, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.